Dan Illman, Mike Beer, race number 10 at Woodbine on Saturday should be a tremendous race. It's the Grade 2 Highlander, 6 furlongs on the E.P. Taylor turf course. $200,000 is the purse. You can make a case for any one of the horses in this race. Before we get to the analysis, remember the 4th of July sale on DRF.com, up to 50% off select handicapping products. Learn more at shop.drf.com. Here's the field for the Grade 2 Highlander. This race is so wide open that last year's winner, Silent Poet, is 10-1 on the morning line. You've got Bound for Nowhere, who's just a crack sprinter when he's right, and I guess he's right. Wesley Ward's sending him out of the stall.
Yeah, he seems like he only runs by appointment only at this point, and still can run, pretty nice races when he shows up. I suppose if he just ships up here and runs his very best race, he's probably just going to win. I have enough questions, though, to try to beat this horse.
Not only is this race super competitive, it just seems to be loaded with speed as well. Bound for Nowhere is a very fast horse, and on our Timeform US pace projector, we have him listed in 4th. Turned Aside to me is more of a stalker. I'm not sure if the number 1's going to be out there on the lead, but Chuck Willis, the 3, is a fast horse. Into the Sunrise, wonder if he has the classy speed to go with a horse like Bound for Nowhere. And Electronic, that's a key to the race, because that horse has speed. I'm just not sure how good he is.
Yeah, exactly. Some of these horses that are at least expected to show speed in this race, it feels like they probably aren't good enough to win anyway. If the pace is fast, it's not going to help them. Well, it'll be interesting to see how much it affects Bound for Nowhere. He is a horse with a lot of gas. He doesn't need the lead to win, so maybe he can fall into the right trip anyway.
The number 1 Turned Aside is 12-1 on the morning line, and that's not a bad price for a Marquesi trainee that won the Grade 3 Quick Call back in 2020 and appears to be rounding into form. Let's watch his most recent race, going 5-8 on the inner turf at Woodbine. This is his second start as a gelding, and as you see, he's down inside. The trip right now is working out, and now he's looking for some room. He drops down inside. That's not there. Now he gets to the outside. He's going to get the split, and he shows some heart to get there, Mike.
Yeah, it's a very game victory for this horse. Listen, I've been a huge Turned Aside fan basically right from the start, and I'm always willing to give this horse a chance in any race because I do think he's really talented. If I'm being honest, Dan, since this horse was sold and turned over to Marquesi, I can't say that I'm thrilled with his overall form. He's run a couple of good races. More often than not, he's been really, really disappointing. If he's a really big price, though, I'm just going to have to use him because I know on his best day, he's good enough to beat a field like this.
A horse that's hoping that Timeform US pace projector is right is the number 2 Voodoo Zip, shipping up from New York for trainer Christophe Clemente for rallying victory at Belmont. Let's watch that race going 3/4 of a mile on Belmont's inner turf course. And this horse, Mike's got a lot of work to do right now. He was able to save some ground on the second turn. He gets to the outside. Into the Sunrise, who's also in this race, looks like he is home free. Voodoo Zip still has about 6 lengths to make up in the 1/8 of a mile, and now he kicks it into gear.
Yeah, it took him a long time to get going, but once he finally did, he comes home very strongly. He actually wins this race pretty easily, Dan, just under strong handling at the end. That's him. He's a really strong finisher in his races. The more I look at him, the more I feel like if they go fast in front of him, that's probably going to help. And he just looks like the kind of horse who's really going to appreciate this long stretch that they run through here at Woodbine. I think it's really going to help this horse. Overall, his record is not great, but he's 3 for 3 sprinting on the grass. And it just sort of feels like that's what he wants to do. He wants to sit and make one run over shorter distances.
Chuck Willis, the number 3, was part of the pace in last year's Highlander. And after that race, Cassie gave him plenty of time, and it just seemed like the right move because this horse has come back firing in both starts this year, both gate-to-wire performances, including this effort going 6.5 furlongs at Woodbine over good going. And he showed speed in this race. He took some heat from the horse on the outside, roaring 40s, and he puts the rest of the field away. This is a nice last 1/8 of a mile.
It is a good run from this horse. His last 2 races are both pretty impressive, and now they're going to step him right back up to see where he fits now. It's interesting. They tried him in a couple of major sprint races last year off of 2 wins, and he just didn't really class up, Dan. I don't know. Maybe he's a different horse now, and he's going to be able to handle the rise back up in class, but I want to see it.
I think that's a good point. And even at 10-1, I would want a little bit more. Maybe I'm just simply being greedy. I wonder if he's already been exposed in the graded stakes ranks and a fast pace could work against him as well. Into the Sunrise, we saw him make the lead last time out, really couldn't find the excuse. Voodoo Zip just simply ran him down. Now you've got a situation where he's facing other fast horses. He's got a closer like Voodoo Zip, a couple of other good closers. I respect this horse. I respect the job Cassie did to get him to run that race last time out at a price, but this is a very tough spot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you could take him off of that last one, especially with this pace scenario that he's expected to run into here. You know, he's got a little back class, Dan, but I still don't think he's ever really run a race that's going to beat this field.
I've been a sucker for Tap It to Win for a long time, and it appears this horse only wins when he gets perfect trips. You know, we've talked about it seems every time he runs. He had that race at Saratoga and he won his maiden. He had the gold rail, and then he won the Seagram Cup. It couldn't have been any easier. Just going 2 turns and he walked on the lead. Last time out, though, they ran him on synthetic. It was his second start of the year. Arzak was able to get to the lead, and Arzak just spread out the field on the far turn. He got a very nice ride that day. Tap It to Win got a good enough trip. He saved ground, but he was running at the end of that race. Is he a turf horse? I don't know, but I do want to give him an opportunity, maybe on turf at a big price. I think he's got to drift off the 8-1.
Yeah, that's too short a price, but maybe you will get a bigger one. I mean, listen, I guess you know that if when he finds himself in the mood, it doesn't seem like it's very often, but when he does, he can come up with a pretty big race. Maybe he'll do that on turf. His prior 2 turf starts, you know, they aren't very good. I don't know what to do with him, Dan. I would like him more if I just felt like this was a race where there's not a lot of pace. They can finally let him roll out of there and make the lead and try to wire the field. I just don't see that happening in here.
White Flag was pretty classy earlier in his career when trained by Christophe Clement. He won the Aqueduct Turf Sprint Championship way back in 2018. Unfortunately, it seems that injuries have taken their toll. Roger Atfield's gotten a couple of good races out of him, including his win off a very lengthy layoff at the end of last summer. This is a horse that could benefit from a fast pace. He just has to remember who he used to be.
Yeah, he probably does need a little bit of a flashback, but you're right. This race could really set up well for this horse, and he is a pretty good turf sprinter on his best day.
Silent Poet, the number 7, won this race last year, and he got a very nice trip and ride from Justin Stein, where he broke well. He sat on the outside, made an outside bid, and was very game to hold off Admiralty Pier. And you just get the feeling that after that race, the plan was, hey, let's point for the Highlander in 2022. They've given him 2 starts on synthetic. He is a much better turf horse.
Yeah, he really is. They also rode him pretty conservatively in those last 2 races. This is a horse who has a good amount of speed, and they weren't even trying to really make the lead with him in those last 2 starts. I guess those tactics will change now. I don't know how well that's going to work out for him in this race, but this is his surface, and if he's going to be some kind of big price, he's another one. I'll probably try to use him somewhere.
It's been an interesting road to this race for the 8 Electronic, a New York bred that was graded stakes placed at Saratoga in 2019, then was claimed for $25,000 in 2020, and is now back in the graded stakes ranks. Finished 3rd to Turn Decide last time out. He showed huge speed in that race, but we saw that Turn Decide, had a little bit of trouble. I thought Turn Decide ran better.
Yeah, I did too. I think Turn Decide's probably a better horse. And it's also interesting because they've sort of turned this horse. He wasn't always a speed horse early in his career, especially as a turf sprinter. And now they sort of turned him into a speed horse, and that's not going to help him on Saturday.
A horse that I want to use, especially if the pace is fast, is the number 9 Olympic Runner. Now, maybe 3/4 of a mile is a little bit sharp. It's possible 7/8 to a mile is his game, but this is a horse that would have trip after trip after trip, and he finally got a good one in the King Eddie last year, where he was able to kind of save ground, went after the leader, and willingly went on by. They ran him in the Nearctic 2 starts back. It was a race where he kind of fell far back and came with a run. I think off the layoff, getting Lasix in a race with pace, he can come with a kick at a price. He has races.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff, and that's why I have him in my mix as well. I'm not, totally convinced that he's a 6 furlong horse. I'd probably like him more if this was 7, but I do think this is a race where you can use him at a price.
And Bound for Nowhere, again, when Bound for Nowhere is feeling good, he's probably one of the better turf sprinters in North America. His last race at the fairgrounds was his first start since Saratoga, where he disappointed in the Troy, and he showed his old early speed. It's really not a race where you can just look at him and kind of say where he is, because he just had all the best of it that day. But if you go back to his usual races, whether it's off the pace or close to the pace, he fires just about every time.
He does. He's a really nice horse. It's very concerning that you don't get to see him that often. I mean, they really space his races out. And I know he won, pretty easily last time, but there are, plenty of races where he looked like he was going to be really tough and he wound up coming up short at the end. Against this field, then I just wouldn't take a short price on him, but I recognize him as the horse to beat.
Can Arzak duplicate his synthetic form on turf? That's one of the key handicapping questions in this race because Michael Trombetta has really done a fine job with this horse. He gave him a long layoff. He brought him up to Woodbine. He ran him twice in synthetic races, and he aired both times. Let's watch the Jacques Cartier last time out going 3/4 of a mile. And again, I thought Kimura gave this horse a very nice ride. He got to the front, extended the lead on the turn. They're all playing catch-up right now. Tapit to Wins down on the inside. He's going to suck up for second, but no match for Arzak. The question is, can he turf? Trombetta won this race a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I sort of feel like he can. I mean, listen, this horse has really turned the corner in his first two starts. He's really improved. I know that he's 4 for 6 on synthetic and 1 for 6 on turf, but I actually like some of his turf races from last year as a 3-year-old. And it's also worth pointing out, I mean, most of those are going a little bit longer. Maybe he's just better sprinting.
And again, it looks like he's turned the corner. Might be a different horse. Curious to see what kind of trip he's going to pull from post 11 with speed immediately to his inside. Before we get to our top picks in this ultra competitive race, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRFTV video offerings. Top pick time. It's a wide open race. I want a horse that is going to be a price. I need Tapit to Win to drift off the 8-1, but this is a race where I'm going to be spreading. I'm going 5, 10, 9, and 11. Voodoo Zip, kind of hard to believe this is his stakes debut because it seems like he's bet every time. He's always competitive. There's always been buzz around him. Maybe Clement's pulling the trigger at the right time.
Yeah, maybe. I'm hoping that's the case. I will say this, though. I would never take the 7-2 morning line on him in this race. He's going to need to be a bigger price than that if I'm going to bet him. I just feel like this is a really good spot for him. I think he is a turf sprinter. He's going to catch some pace to run at, and he's going to have a long stretch to try to get up.
2, 1, 9, 10 for Mike. 5, 10, 9, 11 for me. This is a race you're going to want to go out of your way to see on Saturday. It's the Highlander at Woodbine. Good luck.